What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 3's matches and previewing Week 4. I do have the betting odds today. Last time was able to get the odds in there, so this one's a little bit easier. I have my own stats that I kind of have tried to make, so it's easier for me to look up XFL stats and stuff like that. So let's get into the Week 3 matchup. So on Saturday, we only had one game, and that was between the Sea Dragons and Vipers, and that was one hell of a game. So they ended up hitting the highest total for the XFL, and then the next day, St. Louis and DC beat that. But to start it off on Saturday, the Sea Dragons offense did what they have done. They were a little more efficient today than they have been in the past. In Vegas's offense was a brand new offense with Brent Hundley being in there. Got a little banged up in the second half, it seemed. They weren't what they didn't look as good. Clearly, as you could see, they didn't look as good. But that second half was a really high-scoring second half. I had the over on that game, so I was really happy it hit pretty quick. Going into that game, and it didn't have to worry that much. But yeah, Ben DiNucci, had some really impressive throws in that game. Obviously, the Josh Gordon touchdown, some could call it luck. You could obviously put that factor into it, but it was a good catch. It was a good, the reception after the run, or the yardage, whatever you want to call it, after the run was pretty crazy, because it seemed like Josh Gordon was completely gassed, and then still juked out two defenders to get in the end zone. Vegas, I think that's another game Vegas probably should have won, but we've seen, as you can see, Brent Hundley and that offense look better. They were able to rush for over 100 yards for the first time this season. Brent Hundley, look at his stats. 224, 13 of 28. Like I said, I still think, regardless of the Vipers putting up that much points, DC has, or not DC, Seattle. I don't know why I keep saying DC. I think I'm thinking of next week's matchup. Anyway, sorry about Brent Hundley. And I apologize for putting DC in there. Brent Hundley and that offense, obviously some complications. 13 of 28, but 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then on the ground, 8 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. I think the huge thing here is they need a good running back. Rod Smith, 10 for 41. His best performance so far this season. But overall, just not anything too special. We were able to see Jeff Badette get that connection with Brent Hundley, which was good. But you look at some of the bigger name, like the NFL names. Martavis Bryant, only 2 targets, 1 for 6. Geronimo Allison, 4 targets, but only brings in 1 reception. Sexton looked pretty good in that game, I'm not going to lie. Sinek Sweeting, I would have hoped he would have had a better game, but he really didn't. But it seems Jeff Badette and Brent Hundley have that connection. Just trying to find somebody. That Lovett touchdown was crazy too. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but that was crazy as well. But yeah, on the Seattle side, we see Ben DiNucci, we mentioned. I think the most worrisome thing with this Seattle team is turnovers. They need to fix their turnovers in order to win more games. That's the only way around it. You look at Ben DiNucci's stat line, and we saw Brent Hundley's, and the completion percentage wasn't all that great, but you look at Ben DiNucci, 29 of 37, 377 yards, 4 touchdowns, and they run for 143 yards. Obviously, Morgan Ellison, if you watched it, he looked very good. Did get banged up, was in the tent, was on the field. Very emotional because he didn't want to be out, because every opportunity he gets, he wants to take advantage of. Obviously, you could tell he loves the game, wants to be in the NFL, and is trying to do everything to show that he deserves to be in there, and looked really good, guys. Honestly, TJ Hammonds didn't look as bad for the work that he did get. But in the receiving end, you still see Jakir Pearson I'm putting right now, if I had to pick 3 wide receivers to be the top 3 of the XFL, I'm putting 2 Seattle receivers in there. Josh Gordon, Jakir Pearson, and then Kirkland from Houston. Those are the top 3 wide receivers and it's hard to put one over the other. Obviously, Josh Gordon's stat line, I had him having a very good game. If you watch that DFS video, I had Josh Gordon having a very, very, very good game. And that's what he did. He has that long reception at the end of the game, gets a touchdown. But overall, I think it ended up being like 30 fantasy points, somewhere around there. Just under 30. Jakir Pearson, 7 for 99, 9 targets. Blake Jackson included, caught all 4 of his. Jordan Vesey got included in it as well. And then TJ Hammond's got some of that receiving work out of the backfield as well. But yeah, it was a very good game, very good offensive game. The defenses really didn't look all that good. But Seattle brings it out, and that last possession touchdown crazy catch. And then next we had DC and St. Louis. And this is a game where I was really surprised St. Louis scored as much as they did. I was on DC for this matchup. I was also on the under, and the under got destroyed pretty quick. I think both teams scored on their first possession, but you could look at the first quarter, 22 points scored in the first quarter. The over-under, I think, was at 36.5, and I had the under, so that one definitely got beat, but I did have DC -3, I believe it ended up being. A.J. McCarron, 26 of 42, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Obviously, that offensive line is still shaky. Brian Hill was a surprise active in this game, 12 of 32. But on the receiving end, 4 of 49. Hakeem Butler had a really good game. He had a drive where I'm pretty sure it was just Hakeem Butler every catch and ended it with the touchdown. Austin Proehl, one of the guys that I had in my DFS lineup, obviously did not have a very good game. Darius Shepard mostly was the guy that stepped up in this game. His stat line, you could look 5 of 51. It's not all that impressive. But if you watched his kick returns, he got St. Louis into DC territory on 2 different kick returns. And 2 different kick returns, he looked like he was going to score. They're very close. But you see Brian Hill, 449 and a touchdown. Jake Sutherland gets a 23-yard touchdown. Hakeem Butler gets the I think it was like a 2-yard slant touchdown. But on the run game, 17 for 56. I believe if they don't have Brian Hill in the game, they're not going to be able to run the ball efficiently. It was just DC's offense kicked up pretty good. McCarron throws a pick 6 in the beginning of the game. Receiver slipped, and they were down 14 quick. They score again, and it's tied at 14 going into the half. And then DC, I mean, you see the score 34-28. It shouldn't have been that close. Like I said, St. Louis got that kick return. I believe they got a penalty and got a touchdown out of it. But until that point, it wasn't a turn. It was a fumble. It was a fumble on I think the 1-yard line. That Derek King had, I'd like to say. He fumbled on the 1. I mean, they really didn't have a choice. St. Louis had that box filled, and they were trying to stop DC from just kneeing the ball, which they couldn't do, so they had to do a sneak and fumbled, and that was the first points DC's allowed in the fourth quarter. Their second half defenses looked really, really good in here. Go and look at their numbers, and we were able to see DC pass the ball, finally. They still run the ball. They run the ball efficiently. Armstead, 2 fumbles on 2 straight drives for DC, so that kind of killed them in a way. Derek King, we finally saw Derek King throw, and he threw a touchdown in the late fourth quarter. On the ground, 2 of 9. Smith, Armstead, a very good running back duo. I mentioned Lucky Jackson was a guy that, if you're targeting the DC guy, he's pretty much the only one to be confident in. And yes, he was. 4 of 89. Didn't get a touchdown, but 7 targets. Blair had a really good game, too. If you watch that, he had that really big touchdown. But 2 of 62 and a touchdown. So not really all overall impressive. But if you did have him in DFS, you had a pretty good game. And then Ethan Wolf got a touchdown early in the game as well. But yeah, DC brings another victory. 3-0, and I believe they are going to be home against Vegas, and they are. They're home against Vegas, 3-0, bringing that there. And then the third game, the afternoon game, was Orlando at Arlington, and I mentioned as soon as I saw that the spread that Orlando was plus 9.5 against Arlington. Too many people are judging Orlando of being 0-2, the worst offense, all of this, and not acknowledging of how bad Arlington's offense still is, even with we saw the surprise midway through the week, or maybe not a surprise because of how inefficient Arlington's offense was. As Kyle Slaughter got in there, you look at his stat line, 18 of 23. Sorry about that. 18 of 23, 124 yards, a touchdown. And in the run game, very stagnant, very slow game. Orlando goes for the win. I believe they went for the 2-point and didn't get it. And that's pretty much how that went. Nothing really that stands out for me. Sal Cannella, still a very good tight end. 5 of 33. Vaughn's had a good game. Didn't look all that impressive, but he brought in a lot of the receptions. But it's against Orlando's defense, which is worrisome because I get Orlando's offense and how bad they are, and they just give the other team's offense the ball a lot. But still, their defense is very lackluster. Paxton Lynch, you can look at his numbers. 19 of 31, no touchdowns, sacked 4 times on the ground, 10 of 43. Kind of he looked better rushing the ball, like out of the pocket, when he had pressure come to him of trying to get the play going and stuff like that. But Cody Latimer, if you watched my DFS video on the Sunday slate, I mentioned Cody Latimer is very underpriced. I will have that first look video going up tomorrow to look at his price and see where Cody Latimer is at. Hopefully they price him up. If not, we're just going to keep going with him until they either price him up or he has a bad game. But as of right now, he's the number one guy there. If you were a Rambo fan, you saw him get included a little bit. But overall, you look at all their numbers. Jermaine Martin, who I thought would have a good game, did not clearly. Even in the receiving game, 1 of 7, but on the ground, 7 of 9. That Orlando team is just very, very shaky. Devon Smith for Arlington, 18 of 49 on the receiving game, 1 of 6. So another guy that I liked. Both did not have good games, but Arlington brings it out 10-9. I keep saying they're not a very good team. They're 2-1 somehow, and I just don't know how. And then we had the game that I think most people were looking forward to. Houston at home again, the third game in a row at home to start the season. They bring out the victory against San Antonio, 22-13. You look at the second half, 6 points scored in the second half in total of this game. I think both teams respected their the defenses. Brandon Silvers looked very, very good in this game. I'm just going to put that out there. Emerging as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Consistently, the weapons they have. Jontre Kirkland, 6 of 77 and 2 touchdowns. I keep saying he's top 3 in my opinion right now for wide receivers. Travell Harris, 2 of 48. Dante Burnett, 2 of 31. So that big receiving core kind of held down besides Jontre Kirkland, who had a really, really good game. The interception on Houston, I don't know if anyone here was watching that, but if you go and find that interception Houston had in the second half, I think it was on Vaughn's, or Vasher. TJ Vasher got banged up. His shoulder looked like it got popped just because he got landed on. But that interception on him was crazy. The cornerback wasn't even looking at the ball. He was just looking at Vasher, and somehow the ball ends up in his hands, and he held onto it, and they got the ball. Jack Cohen, 8 of 20, 64, touchdown, a pick. I keep mentioning they don't have a strong wide receiver core. They have a really good running back room, as you can see just by the numbers, 27 of 98. So they ran more than they passed, and they were down in that game. So overall, Houston looks like the #1 team. I still like my DC and St. Louis on their division. Obviously, they're my two favorites to win it all. Obviously, that can't happen, but if they both make it in the playoffs and have to face each other, then I have a really good cash out option. So Houston goes to 3-0. San Antonio 1-2, which is surprising to me, just based off their schedule. And now we look at week 4. I'm just going to go to the betting odds. DraftKings has some of the higher odds. I just went to them just because they are one of the more popular books. But Houston, I think you can get Houston at 7.5. That's what I did against Orlando. I'm taking that already. I have that bet in. Houston minus 7.5 against Orlando. I get there at Orlando, but I'm not. Like, Arlington shouldn't have been that high of favorites. Houston should be that high of favorites against Orlando. And until Orlando has a switch offensively, I'm going to take that Houston defense against that Orlando offense any day of the week. The interesting game here, which I think will be probably one of the closer games, is Seattle and San Antonio. Seattle at home. Mentioned they have, if you look here, just at offenses alone, that's how much more impressive Seattle's offense is than anybody. Points scored, you look, they're in that top echelon of points scored. It's just points allowed. They're up there as well. San Antonio being at the bottom. So this is going to be a very interesting game. We're going to see how San Antonio's defense looks against Seattle's offense. I still think Seattle takes this one. You can get Seattle, I think, minus 3.5. I do like Seattle in this game, and I'm kind of looking at the over. I mentioned how good Seattle's offense is, but how bad their defense is. I believe this is a game where San Antonio could take advantage of that bad defense, but I still think Seattle takes this one. And then Sunday, we get St. Louis against Arlington, and this is another bet that I have in already. St. Louis, some books have it at minus 3.5, and that's what I have it at. Minus 3.5 against Arlington at home. This is going to be a big, if you know XFL, a big home game for St. Louis. AJ McCarron in that offense, even their defense against Arlington's very struggling offense. I'm taking St. Louis at home against Arlington. They are my pick right now. Those are my two bets that I have locked into: St. Louis minus 3.5 and Houston minus 7.5. Those are my two bets right now. Another interesting one, though, is Vegas plus 6 against DC. I think this one is going to be very interesting to see if Vegas's offense can shine again in a matchup. I like DC's defense. I like their secondary, don't get me wrong. It's that offense that I'm kind of worried about if they're able to pass the ball again. Obviously, they're going to be able to run the ball. We can go and look here, and we see Vegas has the worst rush defense in the league by far, 80 yards. You look at theirs compared to Arlington's, that's a huge difference in yards allowed on the run. So I just think 6 is kind of a high number for Vegas. And we go, hey, we just saw them play, and DC covered that, and DC was on the road. But you have to remember of the weather conditions in that game. Vegas is not a run team. Look at it here as well. 236 compared to DC's 449. That was just a DC very strong game. I do like Vegas plus 6 right now. We have two games with 40 for the total. 40.5 with Vegas and DC, and 40.5 with San Antonio and Seattle. Arlington, St. Louis, 36.5. Houston, Orlando, 37.5. I kind of like the under in the St. Louis Arlington game. I do think St. Louis covers, but I can see a very low scoring game just based off of how Arlington's defense has been, how their offense has been, how St. Louis's offensive line has been. I could see that as an under game as well. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. If you guys are looking for the DFS content, I will have the first look video tomorrow morning, and then I won't have another video out until Saturday morning for the 2-game slate, and then I'll have a Sunday video as well. So I hope you guys did enjoy. I hope you guys had a good cash weekend. If you guys are interested in any of my bets, I have it publicly posted. I've been very, very good at XFL this season. Some luck has been included, and I won't say that I'm just very good or anything like that. Obviously, there's luck included. So if you guys are interested in that, just feel free to comment or message me, and I can give you my Action Network bet stamp to where I have all my bets posted. So I will see you guys in the next one.